Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where we talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Detectives These Days Are Crazy, Season 1, Episode 3. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, the first part of the episode introduces us to Yu. He is a current generation high school detective who is pretty well known, and he's come to Nagumo's place. In fact, he broke in because he picked the lock. I thought the twist was going to be like, it's like, oh, you broke in here because he's like, I'm not a thief. I was like, oh, let me guess. The door was wide open, but he's like, no, I broke in here. So he basically shows up because he wants to become Nagumo's new assistant. Which is like, whoa. He already has one in the form of Mashiro, but it's like, no, but I can be better than you because I am very highly skilled, but this is also my way to give back to you because I owe you so much. You're the one that inspired me, and I want to return that kindness. Now that I have the strength and stuff, I want to help you out. But he's like, I don't have the money. I'm literally overdue on rent, and Mashiro's no good for money because I thought she was going to be like, oh, I can lend you the money. I'm like, oh, you come from a wealthy family? But she's like, now I got 500 yen in this piggy bank. He's like, I'm so pathetic that I actually expected anything from you. But turns out Yu's pretty successful at his job, so he has a lot of money. In fact, he's like, it would be wrong to like take money from you. So it's like, I'd actually be paying you to work for you. So it could benefit Nagumo in that case, but Mashiro is like, no, you're not going to steal that job from me. I'm his assistant. And so they take it upon themselves to have a basically assistant off, like whoever can prove themselves to be more effective in the winter. And the 3 challenges means that they get to be Nagumo's assistant. I also love this bit that Yu has where his shtick is every time he like covers his mouth and he's like, that's so strange, and you're thinking he's thinking to himself, he's actually talking out loud, and he comes off like such a prick. He's like, normally people would offer you coffee, and oh yeah, sorry about that. He's like, that's strange. Unless someone would say something about black coffee, they'd offer like sugar and milk, and it's just like, all right, shut up now. So we get to the 3 challenges, and it's hosted by Yu's assistant. Her name's like Hana, but it's like, what's her name, like Kamazaki, but they just call her Maki. And I love, it's like, oh, wait, that's not fair. You would not be impartial, especially if you're Yu's assistant. She's like, oh, you don't have to worry about me being partial. In fact, I hate him. So it's like, yeah, but you really secretly like me. And then she like plugs her, like pinches her nose, being like, you stink. If anything, it probably would put the favor back in Mashiro's place. But it's like, yeah, because at the very least, it's like, I'm going to be impartial because I don't like him, and because of that I can be impartial. I'll at least look at it from at least a decently balanced state, even though you would assume he'd probably give Mashiro the edge because he doesn't like you. But the 3 challenges are, you have to untangle, like it's like a puzzle, you have to untangle these 2 pieces of metal. And how does Mashiro solve it? Like you figured she would, brute strength, and literally broke them apart. It's like, well, you were told to like pull them apart, and she pulled them apart. That's all that matters. The second challenge ended up being like, yo, like figure out what this clue is, because it's the first one was about because the second one's about this detective skills. The first one was about intelligence, and the second one you took the win because he ended up figuring out, oh, this is secretly the number pi written down on like a, you know, it's like part of the numbers aren't there, but it's like the panels are like a calculator. So he immediately wins that. And it's like, cool. And now we move on to the 3rd challenge, the stamina, which I was so surprised. I'm like, wait, how is Mashiro even coming close to losing this? Like, all the crazy, like, movement she did she dashed like crazy when dealing with the ghost situation last episode. So I was so confused, like, when she's actually partially losing a challenge. I'm like, how does that make sense? You are incredibly athletic and stuff like that. But I guess it's like, that's one thing. For one, she was training over and over again and really pushed herself to the limits to do that. But still, like, she's pretty athletic. But I guess that just shows that Yu's even more athletic. Again, I think we're talking just pure raw strength. We already kind of saw that in the case of like the first challenge that she outclasses him. But I don't know. I was so surprised when he was winning. I was like, is she doing this on purpose? It's like, no. But I mean, for the comedic beat of, she literally is like, I can't lose. I can't. I love how it's framed to where she's like, no, because if I lose, I'll give up being, Nagumo's assistant. And it shows like the interstitial thing when you're kind of like, the like title card for the for part of the episode, and it's him instead of Mashiro, which I was like, that's funny. And she uses that as personal motivation. And what does she proceed to do? She basically undoes her storage technique, and she's like dumping out all like this stuff. And it's like, and it still seems like she only barely won, but at the last second she pushes herself and completely dashes past him. But then we cut back to her training with her coach, and he's like, right, you got this. And she's like, right, do you think I have what it takes to be a detective? He's like, a detective? A detective? He's like, what's a detective? And it's like, so I guess all her training, it probably helps in the long run, but it wasn't initially like actual training necessary for a detective. But maybe, who knows what the hell that backstory is going to be and for what purpose of like, I mean, it helps her in the long run because like her athleticism and just those skills she's picked up has helped so far. Definitely came into play last episode, even episode 1 when she took down all those criminals. But in the grand, once again, to be fair, she wasn't really supposed to be doing that. Wasn't really her job at the time because she just went to the wrong location and misinterpreted everything. But I'm so curious, like, did she think she needed to go through all that? Like, she's like, this is a challenge I need to overcome, and if I can overcome it, it means I'm a detective. I have what it takes to be a detective. I don't know what her thinking was. Once again, we see that she can be easily misconstruing things and her understanding of things, so it kind of goes in line for her character that she'd end up at a place physically training herself, thinking it's going to help her in the long run to become a detective. Either way, while this is all going down, Maki and Nagumo are talking, and she's like, I'm so sorry about this. He's like, no, I don't mind. It's perfectly fine. He's just like, I don't get why you wants to help me out. And she lays it out. It's like, you basically wants to work together with Nagumo because he's hoping that he can raise Nagumo's status back to what it once was. He was like this beloved detective. And it's like, yeah, because when you showed up at the beginning of the episode, he was looking at Nagumo's office and seeing how run down it is. Like, right, this is a great detective who deserves so much more recognition. And it's like, that's what his plan is, like working together so he can boost his name and reputation again. But obviously Nagumo sees so much of himself in you because he's like, yo, you is like me. He's very gifted. Fact of the matter is he's working so hard to perfect it and enhance his skills, thinking they'll take him far and he'll soar. But the difference is I was all alone doing what I did. At the very least, you has you, Maki, by his side to, so he's not in this alone. Someone that can push him when he needs that push or kind of slow him down when it's needed. Sadly, he didn't find that person by his side until now, but it also benefits you to have this person, Maki, in his life right now because they're also from the same generation. When she made a comment of, oh, so I'm not so bad after all. And then, Nagumo's like, wait, what are you talking about? She's like, never mind. I don't know how to interpret that. Either that's her being like, oh, I guess I actually am a pretty good assistant. Maybe it is worthwhile that I'm by his side. Maybe that's kind of how she was interpreting that. She's like, well, don't fire Mashiro no matter how this whole situation outcomes. But Nagumo's like, well, she's not going to lose. And she's like, well, she was so certain that you would win, but no, he doesn't. It ends up being Mashiro in the long run. So, and obviously, Yu hasn't given up. He's like, I'll basically come back one day. And then he finds out immediately he got left behind by Maki. Because she's like, yeah, some stuff got delivered. That's more of a focus and priority than all this nonsense here. But it's a sweet moment between Mashiro and Nagumo there where it's like, hey, are you sure about this? And he's like, because she's like, he can pay you, and obviously it helps to have money, but he like puts his hand on her head. It's like, yeah, but the fact of the matter is you'll kind of come through, right? I know I can trust you. We'll make money. And she's like, yeah, we will. So kind of showing her like, yeah, despite everything, I do believe in you, even though it's like, well, that quickly kind of gets undercut by the fact is of like, we still have no money by the end of the episode. So it's hard to say whether this next bit before the next title card is technically, I think that's still part of the next section of the episode and not this section, but it still plays into Well, it's only literally the next day or maybe a couple days later, but it's still the thing of, yeah, we're kind of not making any money, even making that declaration. So we're still back to square one, and it does make you wonder, is Nagumo kind of potentially regretting that decision or not? But yeah, I mean, obviously, heartfelt wise, he's like, nah, Mashiro's got my back, so it is the thing of Mashiro likes having his belief in her, because we can only assume her reasoning for being his assistant is very similar to Yu's, where it's like, once again, Nagumo inspired. Like we saw in episode 1, there's something about him that like resonated with her, whether it was like he's the one that inspired her, or maybe he helped out her or someone important to her in the past, and that's why she's here right now. But it's still unclear about those details. And now moving on to the second part of the episode, this storyline revolves around Yu being stalked, which even Maki's like, yeah, I know it's kind of hard to believe and kind of annoying, but he actually is pretty popular somehow, some way. So Yu knows like, yo, there's someone that's following me, and every time I try to catch them, they disappear. So they're enacting this whole plan to try and catch a stalker. So they let him be out and about, and they're watching from afar. And then Yu does what he does. They're just like, right, detective kind of supposed to always stay curious is kind of his motto. But he does his douchebag thing of, wow, that's so strange. That guy's wearing exercise headphones, even though he doesn't look like he exercises so much. It's like, Jesus, dude, don't be a douche. Oh, how strange. That's strange. That woman's vehicle is filled with cat merchandise, yet her husband looks like a dog. And you're just like, why do you have to say every intrusive thought in your head out loud? You could just keep it to yourself. It's funny timing too, because I finally caught up with the most recent episode of Witch Watch at the time of me recording this earlier today. So it's funny where it's like, oh yeah, like that. There's a new character introduced in the latest episode who has kind of a similar thing where it's like you kind of say the quiet part out loud. Just you let your intrusive thoughts just like word vomit from your mouth. But it's like, then we find out about how popular he is. Like, ladies run up on him and end up stripping him. And it's like, yo, should we be worried about it? Well, that's actually pretty normal. The fact of the matter is they immediately start clothing him again, because apparently that's where most of Yu's clothes come from. It's like, yeah, it comes from like some of his fans. So I was like, I mean, I guess it benefits you that you never have to worry about being stripped naked too long when some people take your clothes. I wonder, do they work in conjunction, or is it just like, how does that work? Where it's like, do you take his clothes on purpose so another group of fans can put him in clothes, or just like, oh, they take his clothes so they can sell him, but another group of fans like, no, we can't leave him around naked. That's too much for anyone to handle. He deserved to be clothed. So it makes you wonder, does he ever have to buy clothes? Because he's like, well, I probably don't even have to wash them either. Effed up it is to say. It's like, well, if a group of fans come by, they're going to steal the clothes and put new ones on me. So I kind of never have to wash clothes. I always have an endless supply, maybe. I'm probably thinking too deeply about this. But yes, while that's all going down, it's like Nagumo's like, oh, I think we found the stalker. And Mahiro looks, it's like, oh my god, that guy looks crazy. And it's like a guy in a gas mask with like this, like, coughing, the Pokemon type of, purple, poisonous mist around him. And then Nagumo's like, that's not even the guy I was talking about. The other guy I was talking about is like actually further right. That guy is mega like ridiculous though. It kind of gives me the same energy as last episode where we met the guy with the cross-shaped chest hair. It kind of is like that, like, the show just introduces and just like, oh, like, weird random characters just for no reason. But yeah, there's a hooded person, so Yu goes into a particular location and he gets confronted. Well, he confronts the stalker, and the stalker's like, me, I'm not a stalker, but it's the whole thing of, oh, the most extreme stalkers aren't self-aware, or the least amount of self-aware. And so he takes off running, and then Nagumo's like, well, like, I'm gonna butcher it, but basically it's like, yeah, it didn't work out for the bear once. He's like, yeah, like a client asked me to basically deal with a bear, and he's going on this like soliloquy of like, yeah, I've got to basically like beat a bear. He steps the wrong way and twists his ankle. I was like, that's the most... Oh god, but I mean, it's so in line with like the whole old man thing that he's got. I mean, to be fair, anyone, young girl could twist their ankle, but I was like, oh, you dumb bastard. And they leave it to Mashiro, who's full Oni mode right now. But then he makes a reference like, yo, that person is there. Which even Nagumo's like, wait, how did that person know just what to say to distract Mashiro? And then I start thinking like, is that Nezu? I didn't even click in my head with the voice, but it's not until I love like Maki. Like, even though she has this like calm aesthetic, she can be like drops that every once in a while and kind of can be very expressive. But in that moment, she's freaked out and panicked, and she just throws like her coat over him. So it's like, oh, it's just so interesting because like you would think just with her stoicism that she would be like more locked in, but she just, once again, it's just like she keeps a very stoic face, but she has a very like type of personality. I don't know how to describe him. And then we find out the person is Nezu. It's like, wait, you're the stalker? He's like, no, I'm not the stalker. This guy's the stalker. And it's like, wait, what? It's like because Nezu caught him outside of Nagumo's like agency for like a month straight. And it's just like, oh, that's hilarious. So the stalker was technically being stalked. Like, that's so funny. And he's kind of like, oh, I was just working up the courage, trying to, get to know his interests and all this because I wanted to make, our first meeting perfect. And he was like, yeah, I was just trying to see what his lifestyle was like and what he enjoyed. That doesn't make me a stalker. And it's like, that's exactly what makes you a stalker. And once again, even Nagumo points it out last line of the episode of he reiterates what you said of, oh yeah, the most extreme stalkers are the least self-aware. And it's like, how could he say that? It's like, it's funny he would say that considering, once again, lack of self-awareness. But Maki didn't appreciate that because I guess for her, it's kind of like, that's such an idiotic thing to do. Like, I get it, you were nervous, you look up to Nagumo, you want to help him out, but like, that's not the best way to approach this. And you're like, for her, it's probably also like, it's going to tarnish your reputation if it gets out there that you were stalking Nagumo for an entire month. That's super kind of effed up. But I guess it also plays into like, well, Nagumo didn't notice, But I guess it's like, yeah, you're kind of being stalked by another detective, so it's funny that Nezu was the only one who noticed, and he started stalking the stalker to find out who this guy is and what he's doing. I wonder, is that why he wasn't involved with last episode? Because he didn't know that they were all connected, so he must have like not been in work at that day. Because maybe he was looking for you all throughout the first part of this episode, so that's why he wasn't around. So it's funny that he would pop up in this situation. It's like, once again, just the most random situations we'll see Nezu pop up in. Considering like last time we saw him was at the end of last episode, literally at like an empty like ballpark stadium, and then having like a bomb be kicked right into the middle of the stadium where he was like doing his photography thing. So just another wacky episode. It's going to be interesting to get more with Maki and Yu and their dynamic, and less stalking from Yu going forward, hopefully. So, I mean, they've made their introductions now, so there's less likely chance of this happening again. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what this new dynamic, this new two I'm sorry, can't get the word out. This new duo. I don't know why I couldn't get the word duo. I kept almost saying like twosome. It's like, no, there's a word for it, a duo. What new energy this duo brings to the chaotic wackiness that is this series. So, but really, that's all I want to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.